what we're going to talk about is how we change an equation into mathematical language. So let me give you some basic words. So just like what we had before when we talked about stretching and compressing a parabola in less than 3.1 with y equals just x squared, we still have to deal with that in this basic equation of the vertex, which is y is equal to ax minus h squared plus k. And the reason why it's so beautiful is because it allows us to pick out the vertex and tell things like the stretch, whether there's a stretch or a compression, okay? Now, let us talk about some other concepts that we have to understand. So, for example, there is another word that we use to describe if a graph is, well, flipped. The synonym for flipped in mathematics is called inverted. The word inverted means to flip, and so we can use those words interchangeably. Now, another word that we've used is move. The synonym for move is in mathematics is called translate. So we can use those in problems such as these. So if I was looking at this problem here, I would read the problem from left to right. And first what we would do is we'd make sure that we start by looking at this fraction that's sitting in front of my parabola. Now, based on that, you would say to yourself the following. From this part, I'm just going to underline, I'm going to kind of underline it in red. I would say the parabola is compressed by a factor of 2. Not 2, by 1/2, sorry. Then I've got my compression. The next thing I have to do is I have to look at what's going on inside the bracket here. And remember, whatever's going on inside the bracket is opposite to what we expect. So because this says -3, that means we have instead of moving left 3, we really are moving right 3. So you'd say this parabola is compressed by 1/2 and it's translated 3 to the right. And then finally, in green here, I'm going to underline this part and translate it up, and then translate it up 4. Let's try this next one. So now let's use regular words to describe this. So if I'm looking at this graph, the minus in front of the minus for this portion here tells us that this graph is flipped. And the 2 will tell us, because it's greater than the number 1, tells us that this is stretched by a factor of 2. Now, the 1 inside here, inside our bracket, is the opposite. So we're going to say that it moves left, because it's -1, left 1 unit, or you could say just 1. That's fine. And the -8 means it moves down how much? 8. So all we have to do is practice this stuff. Now, I showed you how we moved from language, from equation into language. So now let's go to from language into an equation. I'll also make sure that I put a refresher. So you could stop here, and if you want to continue, I'll do one more problem without a stretch, okay? So imagine I have a problem like this. The parabola is compressed by 1/3, shifted right to, but it doesn't say anything else. How do we write that? So the first thing that you want to do is you always want to refer to the original equation, y is equal to ax minus h squared plus k, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and build our problem to look something similar to that. So we're going to start by writing y is equal to, now it's compressed by a factor of 3, by 1/3. So here's what you would write. It doesn't say that the graph is being flipped or anything, so we're going to forget about that. It's just positive. We assume it's positive. So, but it says it's compressed by 1/3. So that means a is 1/3. Now, we go and write the rest of the parabola set up, and we either have a plus or a minus here. So here's what we've got. So it says it's shifted right to. So remember, inside the bracket, right to means -2 inside our bracket. It's opposite of what we expect. But notice it doesn't say anything about being moved up or down. So all I do is I add 0 and we're done. I'll make sure that I have a link of this in the homework so that you can go and refer to it to go backwards to create your own equations.